Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Before we begin, as is tradition, I'd like to thank you all for your ongoing support, encouragement, and engagement. Your participation via subscribing, likes, and comments is worth its weight in gold, and for that, I thank you. Please continue supporting me by watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing to my channel. Today's video is going to be just a little bit of a side video because we're going to be underlining a couple of details, especially when it comes to managing Linux servers. I'm sure as far as you are aware, and as far as you have seen in some of my videos, when it comes to managing a Fedora server, you have a built-in administrative user interface called Cockpit. Now, because Cockpit is still in development, actively, might I add, and the people over at the development team are doing an amazing job, but because it is still in active development, there's a lot of, I guess, lacking on Cockpit's part. And if you are managing Debian servers, then you're kind of just restricted to an SSH shell session. And the reason why I'm making this video currently is so that I can highlight and show you guys how you can install a aftermarket or an open source feature-rich administrative GUI so that you can do everything that you would on a server in a more user-friendly manner. And for this purpose, we're going to have two virtual machines. Realistically speaking, this works on many, probably the majority of the major distributions. So anything under Debian, RHEL, so by RHEL I mean Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and the open source derivatives, so Fedora, CentOS. And it also works on all the BSD derivatives as well. However, I'm not going to be showcasing the BSD derivatives. I'm just going to be sticking with a Debian virtual machine, which is based on Debian 12.6, and a Fedora 40 server. And we're just going to deal with that. So before we begin, I'm just going to install new fetch on both machines real quick, and then we're going to continue. All right, so this in the background is the user interface for Cockpit, and this is based on Fedora. As I mentioned previously, Debian Linux doesn't really have a graphical administrative interface. So let's go ahead and log into both of our servers with SSH. If I can stop suffering. Also, very important keynote. For this to properly work, you need to have the root user enabled. Otherwise, it will not work. The reason being is during install, it takes, I believe it takes, I have to go back to the documentation and confirm it, but it only takes the root user as valid credentials, and it will not allow other users to log into it. But I digress. If you haven't enabled your root user during install, go ahead, wipe the virtual machine, and just reinstall Fedora with your root user enabled. And Debian has root user enabled by default. So you will be good to go if you have a Debian virtual machine. So while we are working on it, let's new fetch our Fedora Linux. As I said, it's nothing crazy. This is the Fedora installation, and it's just a Fedora installation. Now, let's go ahead, and the first thing that we need to do with Fedora, this is kind of an important key element, because you already have a graphical user interface for administrative purposes. You don't really want to keep it because you don't want it to conflict. So you are going to run the command dnf remove cockpit dash asterisk, and that's going to ask you if you want to remove all packages related to Cockpit. It's going to take a minute, but it is going to do it. And after that, you would be good to go to get the setup file for Webmin, which I personally really like. It's very very feature rich administrative GUI. It is, don't get me wrong though, it is based on a little bit older software. Like for example, the DHCP no, sorry, not the DHCP. Yeah, the DHCP server that it's running, it's not Kia, it's still ICA ISC. Sorry, I had a brain fart here for a second. And then there's a couple other things which they're still pending to be updated to the like the new derivative of it, but it is coming, and the dev team at Webmin is also very on the ball, and they're working hard to get it to us. So I am super ecstatic to see how that's going to develop. So now that you have received the successful message and everything has been removed from your Fedora server, if you refresh on your address with port 1990, you're going to see that you are no longer able to access it. And that's exactly what we want to see. So go back into your favorite SSH, and this is the command for adding the repository for Webmin. Do you want to add it? Yes, we want to add it. And then all you have to do is just literally run dnf install Webmin. And then it's going to continue. So this is going to take a minute. While we're waiting for this, we are going to proceed on to, I want to open a new tab. 220. So this is my Debian. Oops. As you can see, it is a very bog standard pre-update even Debian 12.6 in installation deployment. So what we are going to do is we're essentially going to do the same thing that we have done on Fedora without the first half. So the first half consisted of us removing what's currently there and replacing it with Webmin. But because we don't have a administrative GUI on Fedora, there is nothing to remove. So go ahead, just grab the repository command. Oh, right, I forgot. Small key information over here. The base Debian does not come with curl, so you gotta install it before you're able to pull packages with curl. So install it real quick, and run it. And last but not least, add the repository. It will take a minute, and that's okay. By the time everything is working with Debian on the background, our Fedora installation has finished deploying. And at the same time, what we can do is we can also install usermin, which is an additional plugin or subsystem of Webmin, which allows you to control users. So it's a fantastic thing to have. So now that our Webmin has completed on, the repository addition has been completed on our Debian, let's go ahead and run the recommended command. Install just gonna do that real quick. We're gonna let it run in the background. Usermin is still working in the background, so as soon as it's done, we'll be back. And the command has completed. Do note, sometimes it's gonna tell you that it cannot be started automatically. If that is a problem, either run the restart by force kill command. So let's go ahead and run that. You know what? We're gonna do it the old-fashioned way. We're gonna just reboot it. And while Debian is still working on getting back up, post install, we are just going to give that a second to finalize, and then we are also going to do usermin on this one as well. This is still rebooting. By the way, the new ports, there are new ports that are going to be used. And while we're waiting for that, let's see. There it is. Okay, so Fedora is back up. Fantastic. And Debian is still chugging away. So that's fantastic. User 3. So that's fantastic. And usermin is also good to go on Debian. So let's go ahead and see what that means for us. Now, it does use, sorry, let me backtrack. Webmin uses a different port. So if you try to access it by port 1990, it's not going to work. So you just have to change the port that you're accessing it to 10,000. And if you give it a sec, it will work. And if it doesn't work, then there's other ways. It is working on Fedora. And as you can see, we are presented with our login page. If you are stuck on Fedora and you just by accident forgot to turn off the firewall, what you can do is just stop the firewall. Now, I don't recommend you guys doing this in a production environment. However, because we are just looking at the concepts, we are just going to stop the firewall. So system control stop. Oh, I need to learn how to spell, so should be okay. Okay, I apologize about that. I just ended up running the wrong command. It's system control stop firewall D. And if we take a look at this, it's still running. Oh no, it's enabled, but it's not running. Active, inactive right here. As you can see, now we're going to access our site and we are up. So the reason why I said you need to have your root account enabled is because the initial user that's only authorized to log in to the Webmin user interface is root. So log in with your root credentials and you are in Webmin. And if we can, there we go. We'll just verify the operating system, Fedora Linux 40. And we are also going to do the same thing for our Debian system. Debian Linux 12, version 40. And that's pretty much the easy way to replace your GUI administrative interface. We are going to be playing around with it because there is just so much to do. This is, in short, This is the equivalent of the Microsoft Server Manager. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not a one-for-one copy paste in terms of functionality, but this is a very powerful administrative GUI that can be used to do wonders with your server. And in a future video, we are going to continue exploring this, but for now, we are going to leave this here because this is only supposed to be a quick overview of how to install the administrative GUI. Thank you very much for joining me. I'll see you guys in the next one.